Hello everyone, welcome to Sarah's Korean Corner, where I dive into all things Korean, from K-pop to K-dramas, food, language, skincare. So if those are things that are of interest to you, please subscribe. Okay, today we are looking at episode 2 of Itaewon class. As I mentioned in my last recap, the ending of episode 1 had me like so anxious, so on edge. I didn't know what was happening, and I now have my answers. So let's get into it. The police get to the hospital. They see what's happening. Saido Yi actually has like lifted the rock. So the thing that we ended the last episode with is where we're at now. He's lifted the rock. He's getting ready to smash it down on Gwanhwan's face, and you hear a warning shot. So the police fire off a warning shot. It kind of snaps him out of it a little bit, and he turns, he sees the police officer. But you can see from his body language and his face that he's really just like not present. And at one point he basically says, like, you can just shoot me because I don't care about anything anymore. Like, my dad's gone. I don't have any other family. I don't have any friends, right? Like, all of these things are sort of going through his mind. So he really doesn't have anything to lose. And below him is the person that took all of this stuff from him, right? So that's kind of where we're at. And so Sua, kind of realizing the severity of the situation and kind of knowing like she has to do something, or he's going to either get shot by the police or he's going to actually murder this guy.
네가 뭘 알아? 우리 아빠가 죽었다니까!
난 네 마음은 몰라도 나 아저씨 마음은 확실하게 알 수 있어. 저런 놈 때문에 당신 목산답치고 네 인생 망치는 거 아저씨 절대 바라지 않는다고.
Whatever little fibers were holding him together at the funeral, and sort of while he was beating Gwanhwan, like, it's all gone, and he just sort of starts to sob, and he collapses onto his knees in the rain, and he's sort of crying, and it's just like a very emotional, very sad scene. So anyway, that all happened, and it was very, very sad, but there's sort of this like understanding of like, okay, but it's over. I don't know how many K-dramas I've watched, something like 30 plus, which I'm basically like a baby K fan. Using the term like, because I'm also a baby ARMY. I've only been ARMY for like a year, so I'm gonna say I'm a baby K fan. I should have known better. Like, why in my mind I was like, oh great, they talked him down, he didn't kill him, so like now we can just move on. No. He got arrested. So I don't know how I missed that was going to happen, but I was kind of like, I saw him in the car and I thought, oh, that's so nice that they're giving him a ride home. The next scene, he's in the detention center. And Gwanhwan's dad, Mr. Chairman himself, is there. And the chairman is like, you know, here we are. So this could have all been averted if you had just done what I asked you to do, but you didn't. So I'm here to ask you again, because I am a very... Brooklyn, can we not? I am a very forgiving, caring man. And you're in pain because your dad is dead. So let me just offer you this olive branch. And this olive branch is going to be get on your knees and apologize to my son. The fact that he's like circled back to this, knowing that his son has well, okay, we don't know that he knows that his son murdered this man's dad. But he still knows that his son is, like, not a good person, right? Like, that is so obvious. So the fact that he's, like, come back around to, like, I need you to apologize to my son is just, like, ridiculous. I was done at that point, because I was like, the chairman literally cannot be redeemed. I don't care if he starts taking in orphans and homeless people and, like, donates his entire funds. Like, he's dead to me. Like, we're done. So they sentenced him to 3 years in that detention center. So yeah, I was not expecting a 3-year sentence for beating up someone, because that seems really excessive. But again, I don't know. Korean justice system is a lot different than the American justice system, so I'm not really sure like what that would look like here or there. And so he went to meet his cellmates, and the guard basically said to his cellmates, who looked kind of fluffy, to be honest, like they just looked like whatever. But he said to them, like, you know, no hazing the new kid. And I was like, oh, ha ha, you know, like prison trope, right? Like, of course, like every time there's like a new person that comes into your cell, you gotta like show them who's boss. So I kind of did like a little bit of an eye roll, and they were like, oh, he's a child, like we don't, like whatever. And I was like, yes, exactly. He's like 17, so like this is stupid. And then they proceeded to haze him, and I was like, oh, but like, but he's like 17, so, and then you don't really see him. So I was thankful for that, because prison scenes were like, he was getting like a daily beatdown was not gonna work for me. Hua comes to visit him, so that's actually a very important scene. She comes to visit him in prison after he's been beaten, and they sort of have like this like really like kind of lovely exchange where, you know, he's, you know, excited because she gets into the college that she wants to go to, and he's like congratulating her, and she's like, oh, but like Janga Corporation is gonna be paying for it. That's the chairman's corporation. So like they offered to give her money previously, and she kind of was like, oh, what do I have to do for it? But like now she's a little bit more practical, always has been more practical from when we met her. So she's thinking about her future, and so she's like, I kind of need this money, so I feel really bad. And he's like, no, don't feel bad. Like, you have to do what you need to do. And like, I'm, you know, I did actually do all these bad things. I'm being punished for it. It's fine. Live your life. And she was just like, oh. So that was really nice. I don't know that I would have been as gracious as that if I was him, but, and then it's 3 years later and he's getting out. He's made friends with his prison mates, his cellmates. So that was kind of interesting. I'm kind of wondering like how that happened. So as much as I didn't want to see a bunch of prison scenes, the fact that we went from them beating him to them being like BFF, and like one of them being like, call me if you ever need me, was a little bit abrupt. I think we probably needed like something, like maybe even like a prison montage, although there have been a lot of montages in the first episode and a half, so like maybe not, but like something to sort of explain like how he endeared himself to these people, because I didn't really understand that. What we see then is him kind of making his way to Seoul in a very K-drama way. He's sort of wandering through the city on Halloween, which they've adopted from the US, and there's Sua. She's in a costume. So he doesn't recognize her, and its costume's a little bit scary. Like, I don't know what she was actually dressed up as. It was a little bit weird, but she comes like running at him, and he's like, oh, like what is happening? And then she's like, it's me. So it was actually pretty cute, but also like kind of random that like in all of those people on a Halloween night, like she would find him because he didn't tell her he was coming. And I mean, he's attractive, but there are a lot of attractive people on the street, and there just were a ton of people. So it was kind of like, how did you spot him in all of these people? She takes him to her friend's bar, restaurant kind of thing, who turns out to her friend's like a celebrity because like he's been on TV or something. He's gay, so he's like hitting on Sudai, and he's kind of like, what's happening? So that was really nice, because that's not something that you see positively displayed often in K-dramas. So I was happy to see sort of a LGBTQ character in a positive way. There also on the street were lots of black people, although black men, I didn't see any black women, so that was kind of interesting, and I think I saw one Middle Eastern man. So, you know, again, more could be done. I don't know what Itaewon is actually like, having not been there, but I do know a lot of black women who've been to Itaewon, so I was a little bit surprised to see it kind of like missing that particular element, but maybe in later episodes as we sort of get more into life in that neighborhood, we'll sort of see different kinds of people. So she spends the night kind of taking him around her neighborhood, and they spend a lot of time hanging out, and then she kind of says to him at this restaurant, you know, like, hey, so like, what are your plans? And he says, well, I have a 7-year plan. And she kind of was like, what? And he's like, I'm gonna open this restaurant, but it's gonna take me 7 years. And she was like, that's a really long time. And he's like, well, that's the time I'm gonna need. And then she says, okay, well, in the meantime, like, what are you gonna do? And he says, I'm gonna go deep sea fishing. And she's like, I'm sorry, what? And he's like, I mean, I'm an ex-con, so I don't have a lot of job options. That's a thing I can do, and even that was super hard. So I just gotta buckle down. Like, I have these goals, and I've spent my whole time in prison planning, and I'm gonna do it. But it's just gonna take me longer than it would take somebody else. There's really nothing I can do about that. So 7 years, I will be back, and I'm gonna open my restaurant. And she says, okay. She's like, you know, that is a great plan, and you know, good luck. So he walks her home, And by walk her home, I mean he carries her home. And I must have missed something, because I guess maybe she was like too wasted to walk, but she didn't seem very drunk. So I wasn't sure if it was just like an excuse for him to carry her or what. But anyway, he carried her all the way home. And one of the things that I've noticed in a ton of K-dramas is that the woman that is the love interest almost invariably lives at the top of like a mountain. So not a real mountain, but like an urban mountain. So there's like, it looked like he climbed like 300 stairs. And I'm just sitting here like, does no one live on the ground floor of any of these hills? Because I see all these apartments and no one's ever on the bottom. Everyone is always at the top one, where like you have to get all the way to the very top. And I'm just sort of sitting here like, why? So they get to the very top and he's like, okay, well, I have to get my bus, and you know, I gotta be on the boat in the morning or whatever it is that he was doing to do his deep sea fishing. And then she says, so she's very kind of awkward, and she's like, la, la, la. And she's like, well, you know, I've got this like really tiny room, and like, you know, it's not like really exciting or anything, but it's a room, and like I have this blanket, but I only like, and I'm sitting here like, what is she talking about? And he's like, what is she talking about? Like, I have no idea what's happening. Like, it just didn't make any sense. And then you realize, because then she's just like, do you want to stay the night? And I was like, now, let me just say this. It's PSJ. We all probably would pose that question to him if given the chance, because it's him. But like in a K-drama, like they're like notorious for people being like almost like childlike when it comes to sex. So for her to just be like, do you want to stay the night? I was like, you just said you only have one room and one blanket. So what that is telling me is that y'all, all two of you, are gonna be under the same blanket. So, after I was done clutching my pearls, he clutched his own. He was just like, and then she kind of just watched his face, and he was just like, and you could see that he was trying to figure out how to say no without like offending her, but also like without blushing and also without running, because he looked like terrified. And basically it was just kind of like, I'm not rich yet. Like a callback to when she said, you know, I don't date poor guys. So like if you want to actually date me at some point, like get your shit together. And so that was like his response was like, I'm not rich yet. And she was just kind of like, all right, never mind, just kidding. And then she went back inside and he kind of stood there and was like, was that not the thing to have, should I not have said that? And then off he went. Got to the boatyard, they called his name, he went towards the boat, and then I said to myself, if there is a God, and I hope there is, we will see this man fishing in whatever that outfit is, and the boots, and the hat, and the gloves, on a boat, in the ocean. Please. And you know what they did to me? You know what JTBC did to me? 7 years later. 7 years later. Not one boat scene. Not one. And I was just like, why? Why? 7 years later, and we are in a corporate boardroom, and Sua is older, and you know how you can tell that she's older? Her hair is longer, so she looks exactly the same. Her hair is just like down her back to her waist, like that's it. Like as she got older, her hair got like a little bit longer, so it went from like a really cute like kind of neck bob length to like a shoulder length bob to like mid-back waist-ish. Anyway, she's pitching an idea for like a new restaurant model called Vicious Bar. And the idea is that you go there to basically act an ass. Super random. I don't know why they led with this as like her project, but maybe it's supposed to say something about like what kind of person she is now. I don't know. We'll have to see as the episodes unfold. But yeah, so she's pitching this idea. Gwanwan, of course, is also at this meeting because he's the heir to the throne. And he doesn't like the idea, and his dad basically just overrides him and is like, that sounds like a great idea. Like, you know, let me know what, like, do some research and some testing or something and let me know. And she's like, okay, cool. So then she's out in the hallway. Gwanwan apparently still has a thing for her. at this point it's been 10 years. So like the fact that like they're still having a like, why are you being so cold to me? Like, dude, she's been cold to you for a decade. Like, talk about not getting a hint. Like, I'm perplexed by how clueless he is at this point that she is not interested. Surely there are other women. There have to be. I don't understand. So I was very confused. It's almost like the writers forgot it's been a decade, but that's neither here nor there. Looks like she's just taking her usual after work walk. And then all of a sudden somebody shouts, Suha! And it's Seroyi. Y'all. Why is this man on a ladder in the middle of her commute home? I don't know, but I was very happy to see him. He looked amazing. They did a close-up of his boots. His boots. I don't know why. They looked kind of like a cross between like military boots, but also like some kind of like fashion. I don't know. I don't know what 29-year-old fashionable men in Itaewon wear, but it was like some cross between those. It had a very like militaristic look to it, but like they weren't military boots. They weren't shiny. So they did like a weird close-up of his boots, and I was like, well, those are cute, but can we get to his face? Because I mean, and then they did, and then they just stayed there as she made the face that we all made when they panned up, which was because he looked amazing. And he was back. And then she had this whole like inner dialogue of like, it's been exactly 7 years and he said he was gonna do this stuff and here he is doing it. And I was just like, we didn't really need that. I appreciate that they like want to like make sure that people are aware of like the storyline, but like you've already done the 7 years later and you've already denied us of the fishing sequence that we needed. So there's no need to then also remind us again that it's been 7 years, and so like now it's time for him to open this business, because we see him opening the business and we know it's been 7 years. So it was a little bit much. But anyway, other than that, it was a very cute ending. She seemed very excited to see him. He seemed very excited to see her. And so now I'm wondering, like, okay, so we've had these two very sort of different feeling episodes. Where are we going? Like, what like the girl from the first episode, like, I think her name was Yi So? So Yi? I actually don't remember. I think it was Yi So. The one talking to her therapist. Like, we started there, and we haven't seen her again. So it's been 2 episodes, and she has not reappeared. So I'm assuming that since she was talking about her boss and they showed him, she's going to be one of the workers at this new place that he's opening. And so all the other people that you've seen in any stills or promos for the show are also going to be his employees. So I feel like the show is now actually starting properly. So you've got kind of this backstory and this animosity between him and the chairman and the chairman's son. You've got like a little bit of a love story between him and Sua. And then you've got potentially this new category of employees that are going to have their own kind of side stories. So like, I'm pretty excited. I don't exactly know where everything is going, but that's good because it means it'll be fun to actually watch it. Let's get to my favorite moment. So my favorite moment of this episode was actually them walking around Itaewon. So as I mentioned, K-dramas are not very diverse, which makes sense. I mean, it's happening in Korea, and the demographic for most K-dramas are Koreans, which makes sense. I mean, that's kind of like the point of them, I think, is to entertain like the people that are going to understand the language that they're in. It's very homogenous generally, and so like walking around Itaewon, it's really nice to see like different kinds of people, because when you go to a place, you want to make sure that you're not going to stick out and feel really uncomfortable because like there's no one like you at all in the place that you're going. So that was really cool. And I hope that as the episodes kind of continue that we get like a better sense of like what Itaewon is like. But the other thing that I am hoping to see is sort of how, I know there's a black character because I saw the poster, like the promo for this. I'm kind of interested to see like how that character is treated, because I've never seen a black supporting character in a K-drama. Again, like I mentioned, I'm new, so like I'm not saying that it's never happened, just the ones that I've watched, there hasn't been anyone. So that'll be very interesting. And then my most unexpected moment, Sua asking him to spend the night. So I have watched, I don't know how many K-dramas where like there's like kind of like a glint in the eye of the main characters in like episode 2, and they don't kiss until like episode 15. So here we are, episode 2, and like they haven't even like dated or like really done anything romantic except for go to the pond once or twice, and then he's been in prison. So like that jump from like you're kind of cute, how come you like me, to like I have a bed and a blanket, I was like, woo, okay, this is a different kind of show. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I will talk to you next time. 안녕히 계세요. Bye. Ooh, what am I doing?